Hi, welcome back to 345 Delta Foxtrot. It's been a long time since my last video, but um, it's been lots of other things to do. Try and do better. This video is about how to build a Vans aircraft fuel tank, and this is part one, and there's going to be at least three parts. And this channel has been about my RV10 build. This particular video is not RV10 specific. It should, or almost all of it should apply to any Vans RV fuel tank build. Um, so all of the slides are numbered, and there's four main topics. The first one is watch other YouTube videos. Second one is get up to date. Third one is make a bunch of decisions. There's many parts to that. And the last part is building the cradles. Since all the slides are numbered, if you need to jump to some other, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, from the beginning, you can jump to the part that you want fairly easily. Okay, there is a large number of other YouTube videos. In particular, Vans made their own video. It's called Vans RV Fuel Tank Construction Tips. It was made by Scott McDaniels, and it's a 2-hour and 40-minute video. It's quite long. It's by far and away the best of the bunch. However, I would have to give it about a rating of about 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. It's perfectly okay. It's worth watching. You should watch it. In my opinion, it is far from complete, and there are a few things that he talks about in the video that I disagree with. And so I'm going to try and make a better and a comprehensive video about building an RV fuel tank. Feel free to make comments in this video. Give me your opinion on how you think my video compares to all the rest of these. Probably my second favorite videos are the ones that Austin Manke made. And I believe, yes, he made at least 3 videos about building the fuel tanks, part 1, part 2, and then he did a lessons learned. And the lessons learned video is the best one. But again, I would recommend watching all 3 of those videos. They're definitely worthwhile. And they're not nearly as long as the Scott McDaniels video. They're maybe 10 or 15 minutes apiece, something like that. As usual, I put links to everything in the description for this video. You don't have to sit and take notes or anything. You can always go to the description and probably, whatever you want is going to be right there. Okay, topic number 2 is to get up to date. And that's divided into 5 parts, and we'll just jump right in. Okay, part 1 is to get up to date on section 5, which is the general information section of the plans. And you've probably been doing a lot of airframe building, a lot of aluminum metal work, and you're going to be starting some other topics. So now is a good time to go back and review section 5, and in particular, review the sections that you haven't been using that much so far. It shouldn't take you very long. There's not all that much in section 5 about building fuel tanks. Okay, item 2 is to make sure that you have the most recent version of section 18. And section 18, of course, is the fuel tank. At least that's true for the RV10 and the RV14. I assume that it's true for all the RVs, but whatever section number your plane has, make sure that you have the most recent plans, especially if some time has gone by since when you ordered the wing kit. I believe that Vans is pretty conscientious and sends you the most recent plans when they send you the wing kit. But if some time has gone by, you need to make sure that you've got the most recent stuff. And in addition to having the most recent plans for whatever plane you're building, RV10 in my case, you should download the fuel tank plans for the most recent plan, most recent RV plane that is similar to yours. In my case, that's the RV14. The RV14 was designed in much later than the RV10, and unfortunately, Vans does not really go back and update the plans as well as I think they should. But I mean, they do make some attempt. But if you go to a more recent plane, you will probably see more recent information. And in this particular case, the RV14 fuel tank is very similar to the RV10 fuel tank, and you could almost just use the RV14 plans. And there are several things in the RV14 plans which are not included in the RV10 plans and are somewhat useful. So, and it's free to download. I don't have an 11x17 printer, but you can just go to Staples or FedEx store, somebody that has fairly good printers. It'll probably cost you $0.25 a page or something to print out 11x17, but it's no big deal. Okay, the next item on the list is to check in and see if there's any service bulletins related to what you're doing. And I don't know of any in particular related to the fuel tank, but mostly this is on the list just because you should get in the habit of periodically checking for service bulletins and making sure that you're up to date and okay, the last thing on the get up to date list is to download and print out and read the data sheet for the fuel tank sealant. And almost certainly you're going to be using FlameMaster ChemSeal CS3204. And the link for the data sheet is given here. And again, I'll put it in the description. And I think it is only 2 pages long. It's not very long, however long it is, maybe 3 pages at the most. And I highly recommend that you read it. Okay. Topic number 3, you need to start making some decisions about how you're going to build your fuel tank. And up until now, it's pretty much been just a matter of following the instructions. But when you get to the fuel tank, you need to actually start thinking about possibly doing other things other than just following the plans blindly. And one thing that's very specific about the fuel tank is once you seal it up, you don't want to ever have to modify it. It'd be a real pain to have to cut a hole in it and do something inside and then patch it and try and get it not to leak. So think about it, decide now, and if there's anything that you think you might want in the future, you should very seriously consider going ahead and adding it now. There's 5 main topics that we're going to talk about, or 5 main decisions that you've got to make, and they're listed here. And I'm just going to go through them one by one. And then topic 5, the type of fuel tank sealant, that has 5 subtopics. Okay, the first decision you've got to make is, are you going to try and add, or not try, are you going to add extended range fuel tanks to your build? And if you're building an RV10, there are some YouTube videos where people have talked about doing this, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. If you're not building an RV10, as far as I know, you're on your own. I'm not planning on adding extended range fuel tanks, so I've not done much research on this. And so this is something that if you're seriously considering it, you're going to have to do a lot of the research on your own. I can't help you too much on this one. Okay, here's the RV10 videos. And the first one is, I think the guy's name is Vic Syracuse from Base Leg Aviation. And that's the name of his YouTube channel, Base Leg Aviation. And he's building his second RV10, and he's adding the extended range fuel tanks. And you can see from the title of his video that he's using a kit provided by Sky Designs. We'll talk about that a little more in the next slide. And then there's another video. Actually, it's a whole set of videos. He probably has 4 or 5 videos about his fuel tank build. And his channel is Jersey Pilot 83. And again, he's using a kit made by Sky Designs. Okay, you go to the Sky Designs website, and it's given here. It's kind of odd. It's not skydesigns.com. It's skydesigns.aero. I don't know exactly why that is. It's pretty unusual. And I went to their website, and you can see up at the top there, there's a place to click on Our Kits, and you click on it, and nothing shows up related to an extended range fuel tank kit. And so I could not find any information about the Sky Designs kit. There is a way, it's probably in the FAQ or somewhere else, but they do have some contact information. So if you're interested in extended range fuel tanks, you need to contact them directly and find out what's going on. Okay, the second decision that you need to make is whether or not you're going to add a return line fitting. And return lines are required for some fuel injection engine systems, fuel systems. If you go to this website in the Vans store, and you look for the part RV10, or you search for RV10 fuel injection pump and filter kit, it says that no return line is necessary with the -1 pump. And evidently that's changed since an earlier version. And that's good. It means that if you go with the normal stock stuff, you don't have to worry about it. However, you might want to consider adding an extra flange for a return line just in case. Make sure that you're future-proofed, and if at some point in the future you want to change your engine or your fuel system, you won't have to cut a hole in the tank. It'll already be there, ready to go. So if you want to consider that, doing some future proofing, you probably want to know about how much it would cost to add these flanges. And it turns out they're not all that expensive. They're about $40 a piece. You need one for each tank. And you probably want to order some plugs if you're not going to use them right away. So for about $100, you can add these flanges in case you ever want to add a return line. And I'm going to do it, but it's totally up to you whether or not you want to do something like that. Okay, the third decision that you need to make is what type of fuel level sensor are you going to use? The stock fuel level sender is made by Stuart Warner, and it's just a float system, and the float moves a variable resistor, a potentiometer, and so the resistance changes as the float goes up and down. And let's see, when the tank is full and the float is up, the resistance is low. The resistance should be about 20 ohms. Actually, I think the data sheet says more like 30 ohms, but somewhere in that ballpark. And then when the tank is empty, the resistance should be high. It should be 240 ohms. And I definitely recommend that you get out your ohm meter and you check and make sure that your sender is working correctly. You don't want to seal up the tank and then find out that, the contacts are dirty on your sender or something like that. Make sure that you check it out and it's working before you seal up the tank. Let me go back a second. As you can see on the right, on the van store, the left wing fuel sender, it's on back order. And fortunately, Aircraft Spruce sells the same sender. And Aircraft Spruce has it listed as an ISS PRO, I assume it's ISS Pro fuel level sender. But when you order it, the box that it comes in clearly says that it's Stewart Warner on it. So what you're actually getting a Stewart Warner sender, and as far as I can tell, it's identical to the one that Vans sells, and Vans is out of stock on. But it doesn't. I don't know. The Aircraft Spruce name seems a little confusing. It should say Stewart Warner instead of ISS Pro. And it's just a few dollars cheaper than Vans. Okay, the Stewart Warner fuel sender seems a little wimpy to me. I have no reason to believe that it's not fairly reliable, but it just doesn't look incredibly durable and reliable. So one alternative is, I believe it's pronounced CIES, CIES, fuel senders, and they're magnetically coupled. They seem like a much nicer fuel sender, but unfortunately, they're also much more expensive. They're $665 a piece, or a little over $1,300 for two. And that, I don't know, that seems a little excessive to me. Now, I believe that the CIES senders are certified. So I think you're paying a premium. We're talking about experimental airplanes here, and so you don't have to use a certified sender. And I don't know if the Stewart Warner senders are certified or not. I suspect they're not. And that's probably another reason why these CIES senders are way more expensive. Another possibility is to use a capacitance type fuel level sender. And you can find some for sale at Aircraft Spruce. I didn't look into it too much. One thing you have to be careful of is for most of the RVs, I believe, I'm not positive about this, but I believe all the RVs except for the RV-12 the fuel level sender is mounted on the side, not on the top of the tank. And if you look at this capacitance sender, it looks like it's meant to be mounted from the top. Now, I believe that you can mount it from the side and just have the probe going in at an angle, and you can make it work okay. But that is a complication, and also they're a little more expensive, and you have to make sure that they interface correctly with your avionics. So, in fact, you may have to purchase an interface box. And then a lot of cars use reed switch senders, and I think they're really nice. But the problem is they've got to be mounted from the top. I don't think you could even mount them at an angle. At least if you did, you'd have to be concerned about how reliable they're going to be. But anyway, that's a possibility, but kind of a remote one. And there are many other ways to measure liquid level. There's ways to do it ultrasonically, light, infrared, all kinds of different ways to measure liquid levels. And one that I thought was pretty interesting were these infrared sensors. And it's just a plastic piece that would be sticking into the tank. So there shouldn't be really any concern about it causing a problem. It clearly says here that it's fuel compatible. The plastic isn't going to just dissolve in gasoline or 100 low lead or whatever. And the way it works is there's an infrared light or emitter or whatever in the sensor. It bounces off the end of the plastic piece where it comes to a point there. So it's total internal reflection bounce, and it bounces back into the sensor. And so when the tank is empty, the light bounces back into the sensor. And when the tank is full, then the liquid, the 100 low lead, and the plastic have about the same index of refraction, and you don't get total internal reflection anymore. And the infrared light does not bounce back into the sensor. And that's how they work. And if you wanted just a emergency indicator that, say you're down to like 5 gallons per tank or something, you could put one of these in each tank and wire it to a light or an alarm or both, that you're approaching an emergency situation. And I've actually bought some of these and played around with them, and they seem to work okay, but I don't think I'm going to actually install them in my tank. Okay, the next decision that you have to make is how many fuel level senders do you want? And so the question is, why would you ever want more than one per tank? I guess you could have one as a backup, but in addition to just having one as a backup. The problem is that the tank is not sitting flat. The wings are tilted, where the outboard side is higher off the ground than the inboard side. So if you just have a fuel level sender on the inboard side, which is the default configuration, it's going to read full tank until the fuel level goes below the dotted red line in the picture. And if you were to put the fuel level sender on the outboard side, then when it read empty, you would still have some fuel in the tank, and it would be the fuel below the dotted green line. So one thing you can do is you can put a fuel sender on both the inboard and the outboard sides of the tank, and then wire them in series. And you're going to have to calibrate it for your avionics, but I think that that's a fairly standard thing to do. And then if you do that, then you should basically get an accurate fuel gauge from completely full to completely empty. So in addition to that, if you have both an inboard and an outboard, then you do have the backup in case one of them fails. Well, you'd have to rewire everything, but say your inboard sensor fails, you could just cut the inboard wires and rewire it so that you're just using the outboard sender, or vice versa. So that's my plan, is to put one on each end and wire them in series, and have one as a backup. Okay, I think I already covered most of this. The only thing I didn't cover, I guess, is just the fact that the senders are only $80 a piece. So adding the additional fuel level senders is not a big expense. And it could, if you did have one fail in the future, it could save you a lot of headaches. Okay, the next decision that you've got to make is what kind of fuel tank sealant are you going to use? And the first thing to do is just to see what Vans has to say about it. And they say that to use part number MC-236-B2. And they say it's often referred to as ProSeal, and it's available from the Vans accessories catalog, which I believe is now the Vans store on their website. So you go to their website and you look for that part number, MC-236-B2, and what shows up is not ProSeal, it's FlameMaster, and you probably can't read it, but if you zoom in on the picture, you can see that it is FlameMaster CS3204B2, and as it says there, it replaces the older ProSeal, And you can also see that it is on back order. And I believe that all of the fuel tank sealants that Vans used to sell are on back order or not available, currently unavailable. So I don't know if they have any intention of ever selling fuel tank sealant again. It doesn't look like it, but who knows? Okay, if you go to Aircraft Spruce and you just search for fuel tank sealant, the ones that pop up are the Flamemaster ChemSeal CS3204 and the ProSeal PS890. And the CS3204 is made by Flamemaster Corp, and their product family is ChemSeal, and that's where the CS comes from. In the CS3204 stands for ChemSeal. And for the ProSeal, it's made by PPG, and their product family is ProSeal, and that's where the PS comes from, and the PS890. So they are not the same thing, and people may refer to them both as ProSeal, but they're not the same, and it probably indicates that whoever's referring to the Flamemaster stuff as ProSeal isn't really doing their homework and doesn't really know what they're talking about. Okay, on the Aircraft Spruce site, the standard stuff, 1 quart of CS3204 B2 is $175, and the 1 quart of the ProSeal PS890 is $316. So it's about 80% more expensive, not quite 2x. And I suspect, although I don't really know, I'm just speculating, that Vans used to use ProSeal and they switched to Flamemaster because of the price difference. The Flamemaster CS3204 was just so much cheaper than the ProSeal. Another place that you can buy the fuel tank sealant, actually you can probably buy a very large variety of fuel tank sealants from these guys. They sell a lot of different epoxies, liquids, sealants, lubricants for the aircraft industry, and that's SkyGeek. And their website is skygeek.com. And I bought a quart of CS3204 B2 from them, and they seemed like a good supplier. I have no complaints. And their regular price is just $116 a quart, which is considerably cheaper than Aircraft Spruce or Vans. Okay, so the next decision that you need to make related to fuel tank sealant is the sealant that Vans normally recommends is CS3204 B2. So what does the 2 mean? Well, the 2 is the application time, or the pot life, or whatever you want to call it. And the options are 1/4, 1/2, 1, 2, and 4. However, I have seen 1/2 and 2 for sale, but I don't think I've ever seen 1/4, 1, or 4 for sale. So if you want anything other than a 1/2 or 2, you may have to contact Flamemaster directly and find a distributor, somebody that can sell it to you. So the normal stuff that Vans recommends is the B2. So that means it has a 2-hour pot life or application time. And that seems about right. I think you would be really pressed if you use the 1/2 stuff. And you would really have to know what you're doing, and you'd really have to zip right along and just do one rib at the most at a time. And you could conceivably go to the -4 stuff, 4-hour pot life. But it's just going to take longer to fully cure, and it doesn't take all that long to mix up some sealant. So I would just go with the 2-hour stuff. It seems to be what everybody is using, and I don't see any reason to change. Okay, the next decision that you need to make regarding fuel tank sealant is what viscosity you want. You want the stuff that is like honey, or do you want the stuff that's like peanut butter? And the B and the B2 is stands for the peanut butter viscosity. And you can read what it says in the data sheet there on the right. It says the Class A stuff is a self-leveling liquid, whereas the Class B stuff is a paste that will not flow or sag on a vertical surface. And so the default is to go with the B, and the reason for that is to do the flanges on the rib. They're basically going to be vertical, and so if you only have one, it's going to have to be the B. Now here's an example of some I did one way and some I did the other way. In the picture on the right, the black stuff on the left is B2, and the gray stuff on the right is A2. I guess that's one other thing that I could mention, is that both of them come in 2 different colors, black or gray, but it doesn't matter as far as I know. So when I look at this picture, it seems to me like the coverage and is much better for the A stuff, and the chance of a leak is much lower. And it's just nicer looking. You just look at it and go, this stuff is sealing up. It should, be no problem. Whereas, on the left, it's just a mess. It's almost certainly okay, but could there be a little spot in there somewhere where it's not sealed up? Yeah, maybe. And maybe you can be more careful than I was, but I did the whole bit about where you put the little Hershey's Kiss on top of every rivet and all of that, and it's still a mess. Um, and just because it's a mess doesn't mean it's not going to seal. But um, I definitely like the look of the A stuff, the honey, better than the peanut butter. So you might think, well, you can just buy the A stuff and um, you can just wait a little while and let it set, and then you know basically you set the tank on it flat, and you apply some of the A stuff, and you let it set for a couple hours, and then you flip it over and you do the other side. But it turns out that the A stuff flows for a long time. Um, so when I was done using some of the A stuff, I put it on 4 different cards, and then I tilted the cards up at different times. And uh, after 2 hours, you can see that it's clearly, dripping, starting to flow, or still flowing. Um, and even after 6.5 hours, it's still flowing a little bit. So you probably have to set your tank on its side, uh, apply the A stuff over all the rivet heads, and uh, you know anything else on that side of the tank. Wait a full 8 hours and then flip it over and do the other side of the tank, which would be kind of a pain, but I think it would give you a much better result. One option is you could try the CS3204 A-1/2 and see how much that flows with time. And then it's a fairly expensive experiment to try. I guess you wouldn't have to buy a whole quart, but um, I haven't tried it. I have no idea how well it would work. And I'm not even certain. I'm pretty sure that the A-1/2 is available. I think you can get it from SkyGeek. Okay, so as already mentioned, you got to have the peanut butter stuff for the flanges of the ribs because they're going to be vertical. So if you're only going to buy one, buy the CS3204 B2. Um, if you're willing to buy 2 cans, then what I would recommend is 1 can of each, 1 can of the A2 and 1 can of the B2. And whenever you can set things flat and use the A2 to do it. And, even, like I said, set the tank flat, do one side, wait out 8 hours, come back the next day and do the other side. It wouldn't be all that hard. And I think it would give you a much better result. Okay. Then the next decision you have to make regarding the fuel tank sealant is what kind of container do you want to get? And it comes in half pint cans. pint cans, quart cans, and cartridges. So a half pint can is 3.5 ounces. It's $30 from Sky Geek, and that's almost $9 an ounce. Pint can is 12 ounces. It's $80, and it's about $6.60 an ounce. A quart is 24 ounces, $116, or a little under $5 an ounce. And a cartridge is, it's a cartridge pretty similar to a caulk gun or a caulk tube. However, it's not similar enough that you could actually use a caulk gun. You're going to have to buy a special dispensing gun, and that's probably going to cost you $100 or maybe even more. And a cartridge is 3.5 ounces for $34, and it's well, it's pushing $10 an ounce. It's the most expensive of the bunch. The advantage is, it has a nice nozzle. It's easy to apply, minimal odor, easy to deal with. However, I don't think it's worth it. Just taking some out of the can and mixing it up is just not that difficult. And it's way cheaper, and it's not that hard to apply. You can mix it up and put it in a syringe and apply it that way. And another problem is if you're using stuff out of the can, you're going to weigh it out and mix up almost exactly however much you need. It turns out you need about 30 grams per rib. And so if you're using a cartridge, you're probably going to end up with a fair amount left over. You don't want to dispense it on half a rib. Instead of being $10 an ounce, it's probably going to be more like $13, $14, $15 an ounce. Just for reference, it seems like the fuel tank sealant is pretty expensive. $120 for 24 ounces, a little less than $5 an ounce. But just regular West System epoxy is almost $2 an ounce. So, the fuel tank sealant stuff is, more expensive than just regular epoxy, but it's not outrageously more. It's just that you have to buy it by the quart, so it seems like it's more expensive. Okay, as I already mentioned, my recommendation is to buy a quart of each. A quart of the peanut butter and a quart of the honey. And the fuel tank sealant expires after about a year. So you want to keep it in the freezer in your refrigerator whenever you're not using it, and you can extend the life that way. However, for a critical thing like a fuel tank, I would recommend using the fresh stuff, and I would not recommend using anything that's expired, even if it was stored in a refrigerator or in a freezer. Another problem with the sealant is that it's not always available. Definitely, you can see on the van's website, it's essentially never available. But even from somebody like SkyGeek, it's not always available. And I contacted Flamemaster directly, and it turns out that they just mix it up every once in a while in a batch. They mix up, a quantity to order, and they look at how many orders they have, and they mix up that much. And they only mix up a batch every few months. So you may just get unlucky, and everyone has run out, and Playmaster is not mixing up anymore for another month or two. And so I recommend that you order it a couple months before you need it, and then put it in the freezer until you're actually ready. But don't order it, 10 months or a year before you need it, because it'll expire. So you have to time it about right. Okay, the last item on the getting started list is to build the cradles. And Vans provides you with an outline on the side of the box, and that's okay. However, my recommendation is that you build the cradle so that it looks like this. And I believe that the normal way that Vans recommends is you take the two cradles and you nail them together with 2x4s, so that basically what you have is one big cradle, or one cradle with two arms or whatever, that are in a fixed position. I prefer to build the cradles so that they're freestanding, and then you can move them around. You can also put like 1x2s or 2x4s along the edges of the cradle, so that you can clamp it to a bench. So it'll be freestanding, but if you clamp it to a bench, it'll also be very sturdy. And the reason why you build them shaped that way is so that you can set the cradle on its side. You can set it on either side, or you can set it so that the tank goes in vertically. And you want to build it so that the tank, when it's sitting on its side, is at about a 30-degree angle. It doesn't have to be exactly 30 degrees, but somewhere in that ballpark seems like a good number. And if you're going to a fairly low angle, like 10 degrees, then you have to start worrying about will the tank fall out? So you can just drill a couple holes in it and then put a piece of string around the tank, and that'll make sure that the tank never falls out of the cradle. Okay, that's it for part one. Part two is going to be everything you need, and it will hopefully be coming out in the next couple of days. I've already made most of the slides. And then part three, we're going to get into actually building the tanks. So I talked about at the very beginning, there's already a bunch of YouTube videos about how to build Van's aircraft fuel tanks. However, I don't think anything that I've been talking about is included in any of the other videos. So either everybody else is talking about either everybody else is not talking about stuff that is fairly important, or I'm talking about stuff that is not important. So feel free to leave comments about your opinion on that. But I felt that that there was a distinct need for a better video on how to build a Van's fuel tank. If you like these videos, please subscribe and give them a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or comments, leave a comment on the video. I would certainly be interested in any comments. And if you subscribe or give them a thumbs up, that gives me some motivation to keep making these videos. It is a fair amount of work, and if not that many people are watching them, I don't have much motivation to keep making them. So that's it. Thanks for watching.